Welcome to English Made Simple. Here are 5 easy steps to help you gain an A star in English literature and develop your essay writing skills. Step 1. There's no shortcuts here, I'm afraid. You've got to know the texts. I can tell when I'm marking an essay whether a student is actually confident in their knowledge or whether they're just trying to fake it. There's no way to fake it. You've just got to know your texts. So you've read them and studied them in class. Read them again. Immerse yourself in these texts. What's even more effective is to just listen to podcasts about them, to watch YouTube lectures about them, hear intelligent people discuss the texts, and you will absorb those ideas. If you are lucky enough for your school to subscribe to the English and Media Centre's e-magazine, download every article on your text, read them, and you'll absorb all that knowledge. To be honest, that's what I do as a teacher when I'm preparing to teach a new text. And if you are even luckier and your school subscribes to Masolit, the video lecture website, then there should be, hopefully, a video lecture series on that text as well, which is enormously helpful. And before you work on your essay writing skills, do you know can you describe the summary of the plot yourself from memory? Can you do an essay plan of just a key theme? Do you know where the best quotations are for your characters, for your themes? That's level 1. Before you start developing an A-star essay style, you've got to just know the texts first of all. Secondly, now you know the texts, you're ready to write an argument. And this is the single biggest difference between GCSE writing and A-level writing. At A-level, the expectation is you're not just writing about the texts, you are proving your overall idea about them. So think of it like this. I always say to my students, imagine the essay question is worth 2 marks. Can you answer the question about how a character or theme is presented in just 2 marks? If you've done a really good job of that, then the rest of the marks the examiner is offering you to go on, prove it. You've intrigued me with your answer. The rest of the essay should prove what you've got in your introduction. So I know whether by the end of an introduction, whether the essay is going to get a high level on the mark scheme, whether or not it has an introduction that has an argument or not. And I really like students who are bold, confident, and clearly believe in their own ideas. Those students tend to explain their answer really well across the whole essay compared to students who write an argument but you can tell don't really have faith in it themselves. Once you've got that argument, you should have at the end of your introduction a key phrase, an idea that you should keep coming back to. It should be the thread to your essay. Now on Edexcel English Literature, to get a level 4 out of 5 on the mark scheme, to get those high Bs and A star grades, you need to have what they call a controlled argument. How can you show the examiners you are controlling the argument? Try and thread it through your whole answer. And my advice for this is repeat your argument phrase at the start of each topic sentence. More on that later, but here's an example introduction. So let's say explore the presentation of family in Shakespeare's Hamlet. This is my simple 3-step approach to writing a successful argument. This is a very simplified version, I admit. But yes, Shakespeare's Hamlet is a play about revenge, but actually, look at me evaluating already from the sentence number 1, its main concern is arguably the theme of family. And at this point, imagine the examiner is saying, okay, tell me more. What do you think family is in Hamlet? In the play, the main character Hamlet's family relationships are complicated by grief, betrayal, and distrust. I've shown an understanding of what the theme is in the answer, in the play rather. And then finally, this is where the argument really happens. So yes, you've understood what family is in the play, but what do you want to prove about family? And so by the red sentence, it's quite broad. That just summarises what family is. You need to what we call narrow your argument down. You've only got like 45 minutes, an hour to write this essay. You can't write about everything to do with the play. You only just need to pick one little thread, a needle, that's going to be carried through the rest of your essay. So this is what I do with my argument sentence. So yes, while the spectre of the ghost does indeed linger over Hamlet across the play, it is actually his relationship with his mother which consumes him most in the play. So I've admitted, yes, the ghost is important, and I could go into all that, but I don't want to. My argument is his relationship with his mother. So I've allowed myself this essay to be, even though it's about family, I've made this essay my own. My personal argument is it's his relationship with his mother that I'm really interested in proving. Now that takes an awful lot of pressure off my shoulders. I no longer have to prove everything to do with family in this play. I've only got 3 main paragraphs to write. I only want to write about very narrow ideas. So I've helped myself out enormously by being bold, by being confident, by narrowing it down. There is one exemplar answer I remember from the Duchess of Malfi, another Edexcel text. It was a question about symbols. The examiner praised this exemplar answer because it only ever talked about one symbol in the play, the symbol of rings in the play. I think sometimes A-level students put a lot of pressure on themselves to think, I have to write about everything in this play. University lecturers don't even do that. In an hour-long lecture, they pick one narrow little thread and they control it and they carry it all the way through their work. And that's what we should do too. Once you've got that thread, you need to carry it through your essay across each topic sentence. Now again, this is following on the theme of narrowing everything down. So your next 3 paragraphs should connect back to the argument. You've intrigued me. You've said that Hamlet is consumed by his relationship with his mother. I need to come up with 3 reasons why that is true. And I'm going to explain them one at a time. So this means each of my paragraphs has a super clear focus, and you'll see with what the underlined word here is. So Hamlet is consumed by anger towards his mother, even more than the grief he has for his father. Then paragraph 2, this anger that has consumed him, do you see that nice cohesive transition from the first paragraph into the next one? It's only expressed in Act 3, Scene 4 when he tries to force her to recognise the moral corruption of her actions. And then finally, once Hamlet is aligned with his mother, building on what I've already written in paragraph 2, he is no longer consumed by anger and can move forward with his revenge with clarity and purpose. So all of these ideas prove my argument. Hamlet is consumed by the relationship with his mother. It takes on anger at the start of the play, even more than grief. Secondly, this consuming anger he feels is only expressed when he forces his mother to face what she's done. And then finally, once he's no longer consumed, he can then move forward. So as you can see, I'm showing the examiner, I'm proving my argument. I'm always sticking to it. And I've given myself, I've colour-coded a word that I can really prove and stick to in my paragraphs. The main issue I see with students when they're doing their main paragraphs is they go off track and they go off the track from their main idea. Just stick to this idea the whole way through the paragraph, and I'll show you how to do that in a moment. The next step is to write like a critic. So I did a really great activity with my students where I gave them each a post-it note once we'd read a few critical essays, and I said, okay, now let's pretend you are a critic. I want you to come up with your own critical statement. Give yourself a fancy critic name. And it was amazing what the students wrote. They suddenly started writing with confidence. They were suddenly being bold, and they were really starting to put forward very narrow viewpoints. And I made the point, well, what's the message? And they said, yeah, we can write like critics, and it sounds better than when we write like students. I sometimes feel like A-level students, they don't think their own views of the text are worthy. They sometimes feel like the text is something above them that needs to be respected. No. To be really successful at A-level, you've got to have a real command over the texts, and you've got to really almost write without fear and be really bold and believe in your idea, which is, I know, is easier said than done. And that allows you to be evaluative. So as I've got here, it's not just about revenge or family, it's more about this. It's about a character who values truth, trying to be more truthful. That's evaluative. I'm making a judgment. Yes, it's about revenge or family, but not really. It's really about this. That's a bold, opinionated, critical view that I can carry on and prove across my essay. Another example critical opinion, which I could use as an essay argument, is Hamlet is a character intimidated by his task of revenge, but not because of his fear to fight. It's instead a fear of making the wrong moral decision. Now, as you can see, I introduce a more obvious view, and I'm discounting that, and I'm presenting my own more interesting judgment instead. So that's a nice little essay writing hack you can use to write in a more evaluative, top-level style. And then finally, in Hamlet, Shakespeare presents how corruption permeates the entire court of Elsinore, but its poison stems from the top. So rather than just Hamlet has corruption in its essay, I'm actually proving where the corruption comes from, narrowing down my idea, giving myself an even greater focus, a more specific focus that I can stick to for the rest of my essay, rather than just writing a bog standard, here are 3 ways in which corruption is shown in Hamlet. My final bit of advice is pretend your reader of your essay doesn't get what you are saying. I'll explain. So when you explain your idea, imagine your reader doesn't get it. They just can't see how your idea is true. Now, this change in mindset will really improve your close analysis of the text. I think English teachers are so often for our students to analyse. We often forget to tell students why they need to do it in the first place. You're trying to illustrate how you got that idea in the first place. And by having this mindset of imagining your reader doesn't get it, it forces you to explain where you got it from really, really carefully. It really gets you to engage with the nuances and subtleties of the writer's craft, which is a direct quotation from level 4 out of 5 on the Edexcel mark scheme. You do it all the time in mathematics. If you remember your GCSE days, you show you're working. You can't just go straight for the answer. This quotation suggests this. That's like giving them the answer straight away. You've got to show, how did you understand that? What was it about that quotation which helped you get that idea? Show you're working. It's not just in maths, you should show you're working. So rather than just saying what the quotation does, this quotation shows Hamlet's anger with his mother. Well, how does it? I don't get it. Can you explain it to me? As soon as you have that mindset change, it really improves your essay writing style. Now, most of the time you write essays for your teachers, and obviously they get it because they taught you it in the first place. But imagine you are writing it for someone new instead. Imagine you're writing it for someone who doesn't get it. And that really is transformative with student essay writing. So here's my topic sentence again. Hamlet is consumed by anger towards his mother, even more than his grief for his father in Act 1, Scene 2. So that is my topic sentence for my main first paragraph after my introduction. I would have my first quotation, Hyperion to a satyr. Now, rather than just explaining what that does, I need to explain how that proves my point. So I would argue that Hamlet doesn't really personally know his father. He's a godlike figure. He's a Hyperion. He's mythic. He's so detached from this idea of his father. Hamlet's language is much more emotive, however, when he speaks to his mother. Here, he repeats her word seems back to her. He has that very firm short sentence, nay, it is, which reflects his how offended he is at the audience hears his disgust, his offence, his anger towards her, his bitterness. How dare you judge me for my behaviour? You do not get me at all, is what he's saying in that quotation. And then his anger is further clearly shown with this quotation from his soliloquy, with such dexterity to incestuous sheets. Now, to someone who doesn't really get English literature or the text, they wouldn't know how each of these quotations show anger. They would look at this one here. What is it about dexterity to incestuous sheets that shows anger? And you would explain, well, do you see the repeated S sounds, the sibilants? Can't you hear the disgust and the anger and the fury with which those hissing sounds convey his anger towards his mother's immoral actions? And they go, oh yeah, I can see it now. And that's the magic mindset change in English literature. Not only do you explain your idea, but explain it to someone who doesn't get it, and you'll end up explaining it far better. You can even end the paragraph with a therefore point. So implicitly, under the surface, there's been a big idea that's been going along this whole paragraph. And when you get to the end of the paragraph, here's another top tip for you. Ask yourself the word therefore, and it will help you unlock a deeper idea to end your paragraph with. So rather than just repeating the topic sentence, therefore Hamlet shows anger, you are asking yourself to unlock a deeper reason why there is anger. So therefore, Hamlet's anger towards his mother illustrates a moral disgust towards her behaviour, which, if you remember my paragraph 2, is exactly what I'm going to be writing about there. He confronts her with his moral disgust and forces her to see the guilt and the impact of her actions. So, in summary, there's no quick fix. It's not simple, but let me simplify it. To improve in your A-level English literature essay writing, whether it's AQA, EdExcel, OCR, these 5 things work. You've got to know your texts. If you don't, and the rest of these tips, they just won't work because your argument won't be based on confident knowledge. Once you've got your knowledge, answer the question with your own argument. By your introduction, you should have already answered the question. The rest of the essay explains your answer, and you need to do that with 3 narrow ideas. Rather than just 3 points about the question, think of it like this. What are 3 reasons why my argument is correct? Step 4, rather than writing like a student, the easiest way to improve your essay writing style is to pretend you are a critic yourself. Write in the role of a critic, and you will automatically be writing in a more nuanced, evaluative and confident way. And then step 5 is, as you are explaining and analysing your ideas, to make sure you get the right depth and detail, which every English teacher asks for, pretend you're reader of your essay. Imagine they're not your teacher. Imagine they're a reader who simply doesn't get your idea. Try these 5 things out on your next essay, and you should see immediate improvement, and you will see yourself achieving even more highly against the mark scheme. Hope it works for you.